Hey, good afternoon, Mark. Check, check.
Hello, how you
Hi.
doing?
Good, thank you. Is Timothy joining today? Do you know?
I think so. He's on hold with iVisions. Um, he's needing to get some advice on correcting a budget coming forward,
Okay,
something like that.
okay,
He was checking them against ESP, what ESP brought forward, and is like $500 off. And so he went into iVisions, checked a couple places, and in one place it's right on, and another place is off.
Hmm.
So he's on trying to get that fixed.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, all ESP does is you tell it which database and column to look at, and it just pulls it in. You're working,
Yeah.
and you're talking about you're working, right? You're
What's that?
working at, yeah.
So I think he'll pull it up, but he's wanting to talk with iVisions and get that squared away,
Okay.
and he'll be kind of watching on the side.
Okay. Well, do you know we had some issues with getting everyone's working loaded correctly? Because this is the first year that we're using the budget columns to load. So
Yeah.
it's exposed a few issues. But the good thing is once we figure out which is the right column to load, it's going forward. It shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
All right, we'll give everybody a couple more minutes. Might not have that many people this afternoon, it looks like. Okay, Mark and Kim, it looks like you two are it for this afternoon. We had a lot of people in the morning session, so maybe that's why. So the only thing I have planned for this afternoon is just talk about the supplemental pay, the pay components. Oh, there's Tammy, she just joined. The pay components on the assumptions tab. And then I'll open it up to any questions that you specific questions you guys have. And since there's only 2 or 3 of you, it shouldn't be that hard. We can focus on questions specific to you. I do want to show you guys one thing, since we're having a lot of issues with recreating scenarios. If you want to see which scenario a scenario is created from, if you go to Scenario Explorer here, right click to add a column, there's a scenario called Origin Scenario.
You can't see your screen.
Oh, you're right. Thank you. Try that again. How about now? Oh, that's the wrong screen, I bet. Hang on. Share screen, screen 1, share. Now I hope you can, correct?
That's better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let me redo that. Right click up here. This is Scenario Explorer. Right click. There is a Origin Scenario column. This will tell you which scenario any scenario is based off of. It's easy to see if you're in the fiscal year because you have the tree. But if you want to make sure that your fiscal base, your first scenario in a new year, where it came from, you can just show that column. This came from 21-22-5 modeling. So something to double check if you ever wonder where it came from. Okay. Scott, did you want to tell them about tomorrow?
Yes. Oh, hold on. Let me unmute. Am I unmuted?
Yeah.
Oh, you are. Okay. It's kind of a silly question to ask you if I'm unmuted if you can't hear me.
No, you're not.
Tomorrow we're going to postpone our session on responsibility centers because I have still yet to get the Tyler name change or employee ID change for the LBL districts, and I've really got to get that done. And with the recreating of the budgets, the new year budgets, I just haven't had time to get that ready to go. So we're going to postpone it. I'm going to give you your day back tomorrow, and we'll schedule another session, like office hour session, next Friday. And if anybody can't make that, who's really wanting to dive into the responsibility centers, then just let me know, and we'll facilitate some one-on-one time. So does that sound okay for everybody? Must be a yes.
That's fine with me.
Okay. I'm going to assume that if everybody wants to raise their hand or complain, they would do that, right?
Yeah.
All right, Tim, go ahead.
I'm learning in these Zoom meetings that silence means
Agreement.
agreement, right? Speak up now, forever hold your peace, kind of a thing. So before we go to back to the assumptions and talk about supplemental pay, does anybody have any questions or anything they've come up against in the past couple of days they want to talk about, mainly with the employees? Scott, were you able to, was there anybody here that you had to recreate the new year for? And we want them to check it?
I did create Lincoln County, and I have detected a follow-on issue that the proper budget column IDs were not passed in, and I'm working on that. I believe I have fixed up Lincoln County. Who else is on the line here? Tammy, I have not done yours yet. Jennifer, I have not done yours. Jennifer, which district are you with?
Philomath?
I did do Philomath. Yes, Philomath is good. And Kim, again, I think I did yours. And Mark, I believe I talked to Tim, or let Tim know he should check his general fund totals again, because I think they might be a lot better than what we looked at yesterday. Okay. And Tammy, I'll get to yours really quickly in a little bit.
So the way to check it is, if you remember in the new year, the working and the adopted, excuse me, are reloaded into the blue columns, and then your working is copied into your model. So the way to check, first of all, once you make sure that your working is correct, And the best way to do that is to just look at the main total, the final number, of course, but you can spot check some values. You can then grab your working column, move it to the left of your model column, and then do a delta column, right? A delta column being the difference between these two columns. Now mine is not correct, so that's why I have so many deltas. And you really only need to check like 300 and above, or anything that's not being calculated, because you would expect your salaries to be somewhat different, right? Because when we copy them into the model and then the scenario gets recalculated, all of those assumptions, calculations that we figured are being redone, and they're going to differ from what you get pulled in from working. So there will be some dollar amounts in all of your salaries, supplemental pay, and maybe your medical benefits and your payroll costs. I would expect to see some deltas in these. But anything other than that, you shouldn't see any deltas here. I do have deltas, so don't use mine as an example. But once your working is correct, then you can just double check that it was copied over correctly into your model. And that's going to be your starting point. You should be good to go at that point. If it's not, let us know. Please let us know if there's deltas.
And the best way is to send me an email.
Right, emails would be good. And if you do send us an email about that, maybe tell us which numbers you're looking at that aren't jiving, so that we at least know when we get it right, when we reload it, we know if we got the right one. Other than because we don't know what your working budget is. We have no way of seeing it. So we need to know what total we're looking for. Any questions about that? You also have your adopted there if you need to see it. Right click, it's in the Infinite Visions data set, the blue columns, adopted. It's not there by default, it's just there for reference if you need to show it. Okay, so yesterday we talked about the assumptions, the calculations, the object groups, and the medical benefits. Were there any questions about those? Okay, so we'll start talking about these, which is usually the most difficult in setting up initially, at least, is the supplemental pay or the pay components. And I'm just going to go through these. We have quite a few different types here, so I'll go through these, and they should correspond to what you have loosely, or at least very similar setups. So I'll just show you how these few work. And you can just make sure that they are, you want to go through these and make sure that the factors, the qualifiers, the schedules, anything that's being used, you expect it to be, to use it in 22, 23, and if update any values for the budget. So the first one we're going to look at here is longevity. And you click on it here on the left and it shows up on the right. And the top part is really just make sure it's active. If you want to turn one off but keep it, you can just uncheck the active, and that way it'll stay there, but it won't be calculated any longer. And then you have the first section is the Infinite Visions loading, and you have the binoculars here. You type in longevity. So this is telling ESP what to look for in Infinite Visions. Everybody here is Infinite Visions, so I can say Infinite Visions now. So mine you guys, if you use your binoculars, it's probably a lot quicker. For some reason, mine takes a few seconds to run. So I'm going to let that just run in the background where we continue to look here. So the first thing to think about is, and don't worry about any of these other options right now, we'll talk about a few of them in a minute, is there's really kind of two types, or there's two ways values get into these supplemental pays. Either one, we pull the values in and just stick them in to the model. We pull them into Visions and then they get copied from the Visions into the model, or ESP calculates it. those are really the only two ways. One caveat though, if we pull it in from Visions, you can put a inflation factor on it. So then it kind of does become a calculated value, but it's being based on the values coming in from Visions. And we'll talk about inflation in just a second when we get down to it. So for this pay component, there it is. Oh, and then it disappeared. It's refreshing. All right, well, that'll come back in just a second. So once you set up the Visions load, and this might not, you don't even have to use this. If it's a new supplemental pay, and it doesn't really have anything in Visions yet, you don't even have to, if you're not using the actuals, you don't even have to set anything up here. The first thing that you would look at after that is a qualifier. So for this pay component for longevity, the employees have to be on model salary plan 8. And you can see there can be multiple types of qualifiers you could set up just based on many different properties of the employees. But for this one, it's saying that the employee or the funding has to be on salary plan 8 equal to plan 8. If they are on plan 8, then we continue on down. Then it starts looking at a data schedule. So this one will not use any factors. This will use a data schedule, values from a data schedule. Okay, so we did a search for longevity in Visions, and it found 148 employees. The reason why I wanted to show you this is because you now can go to this amount column here. Hold your mouse cursor down. And then on the, oh, why didn't it do it? Sorry, let me figure out what. You should be able to sum this column. Maybe because there's so many.
It's doing it now.
Tim, a quick way is to right click in the column heading,
Yeah. Select all.
select full column.
Select full column. Phil Collins. Okay, so the sum of this column is 124,968. Now, if we were pulling in the actuals and using that, then I would say you should expect to see this value, or at least pretty close to this value, in the employees. However, this particular pay component is calculating the value. And let me get back to this now. It's using a data schedule, and it's using the classified longevity pay. And remember, any data schedules are down here in the bottom left, the bottom of these property sections on the left. There is the classified longevity pay schedule. And it's looking at the employee column, the district service column of each employee. So let me click on the schedule. And what it's saying is based on the district service column value of each employee, if they're reach 15, between 15 and 19, it's going to give them 25 cents times their work time. And their work time being the number of hours they work in a day times the number of days they work in a year. So basically a 25 cent an hour raise. And notice that up here, this thing is called the schedule type. It's threshold, which means once they reach 15 and between 15 to 20 or 15 to 19, it'll be 25 cents. Once they reach 20 to 24, it'll be 50 cents, then 75 cents, and anything over 30 years will be $1 more an hour. And then these are the values that you will edit if you need to change these values. So even though there are actuals for this pay component, ESP is calculating it based on employees' district service. Let me go to the employees and show you that you can show that column. Now, when it comes to individual properties of an employee, it's not in a data set, so you would skip over these data set menus and go down to employee. These are all employee specific values. So then you would go to seniority years.
That's not actually the value. You
Oh,
pick.
that's right. District service. Yes, that's right. It's weird because there are two other possibilities. There's seniority years, there's total years of service, and then what was the other one? Was it district
service.
District service. So you'll have to look how you manage it in visions. And from what I understand, because I remember one time we had an issue with the district, they just were not keyed in correctly in visions. They weren't being maintained, I believe, on a year-to-year basis. So the values that were coming in were wrong.
The total years of service in the district service columns have to do with our staff positions report to ODE.
Yeah.
So total years of service is like total years in Oregon.
Right.
So you typically you wouldn't use that for a longevity plan typically.
You would use district service then.
Yeah, or seniority years.
Right.
Yeah, but the seniority years
Typically,
doesn't look like it's managed on this.
Right. Some
Yeah,
have
it
values,
depends on
some
the
don't.
district.
Right. Right. So definitely, if you're using that, show these columns and make sure that this is what you expect to see. But also note that in visions for this employee, this probably has for district service 27. We attempt to add a year, right? Because next year they're going to be one more. So this is what that table keys off of. It keys off these years here, district service, and then it knows which value from the schedule to apply. So that one that had 28 years, they should be getting 75 cents an hour raise. So then I go back over here and we do a little math here just to show you how it works. I'm going to put the work hours next to the work days. There's actually a work time column. Although for some reason I can't get to it. It's I'm using a new monitor. I can't get down.
Yeah, it happens. If you scroll down, if you use the mouse arrow down, I'm going to try and split those long menus into columns. But
okay.
if you scroll down, use your mouse cursor.
Yeah.
Just now use the arrow. Now use your keyboard arrow.
Oh. I can't see it.
Oh, it's at the bottom. Yeah, it's a Windows, the way they do the screen scraping sometimes.
Right. Well, another way to do this, because I know work time is work days times work hours, I'm going to put in a calculated column. And I'm going to tell it, give me a product, which is work days times work hours. And this is a label. We'll call it work time. Okay, so this is a ESP created column just now, a dynamic column. So 1488 times 0.75 cents, $1,116. So hopefully when I show this person's pay component column for longevity, it should have that value in there. And to show the pay component value columns, right click, and we're interested in the model. And if you go over here, there is a whole pay component submenu. These are all of the pay components and a few other statistics if you need it, the total of all the pay components. But I just want to add longevity for right now. And I would also suggest when you're checking these values, try to be in full scope so that the total that you're seeing at the top is the total you expect to see. Because one misplaced decimal could really cause an issue. Oh, you know what? I shouldn't have done that because anybody know why it's not calculating? Remember, it was only for the people on plan 8. And I picked somebody on plan, but luckily right next to it is somebody on plan 8. Let's see, I was a victim of my own qualifier. So we'll take 1704 times 75 cents times their, what would be their 1.0 FTE. I'm getting 852. Showing $1,278. So I'm not sure why I'm getting 852. It could be that the scenario needs to be recalculated as well. It might not have been recalculated since I've created the new year. I do have a red flag, and we always definitely suggest recalculating before you check these values. But I checked them with the earlier group and they were right. So,
But you have 24 years of service, so what's the value of for,
oh, 20, you're right, 24. I was using 75 cents. I
so
think it's 50
1704
cents.
divided by 2 is 852, so
Right.
it's 50 cents.
50 cents, yep. So I was using the wrong qualifier, 852. So 1704 times 50 cents is 852. I was using 75 cents. So that is correct. So any questions about this pay component? You know, they can be set up a million different ways, but that's a good example of using a table based on the employee column, the district service column. And almost any column that you use, you can show that column in the grid so that you can do this math verification. And then we go back to longevity. So anybody on plan 8, use the data schedule. If you needed to multiply it again by something, you could use this factor. If you needed to reduce it or whatever you wanted to do, you could just change that from a 1 to like a percent. We used a percent yesterday for the PFMLI to artificially reduce it. And this is where it's adding that 50 cents to their work time. Adding 50 cents or whatever per hour. And then it's a supplemental pay and it's going on the financials, it's rolling into 0118. Okay. There are a lot of other options on these supplemental pay components. And generally you're not going to use them, and this is a special reason. And they should be set up already from your previous year. Let's talk about the qualifiers real quick. So notice that there's a qualifier or allow override for this qualifier. So since it's not checked, let me go back to the employees for a second. And I need to show you guys this. So if you notice on this longevity pay component column, there is, we call it a little hamburger menu right here. Notice when I right click, there's now this new submenu here, and it's just for this pay component. If I right click somewhere else, that is not there. So you have to right click on the pay component to get that submenu. And this is where all of the magic happens behind the scenes to get to this value. So you can expose those if you want to. Right click, longevity. I'm just going to say add all so we can see all of them right now. This is a little level deeper of how this 852 was calculated. And you might need to expose these columns if you need to do like some overrides or change some values that are being calculated. I need to recalculate. So this is the enable. This is how you can enable the person to get the value. Because they're on plan 8, it's already checked. This is a new checkbox had been added where you might want to just take people out. If a lot of people have it already, you could just uncheck. You could check this to take them out. Is that right, Scott? Is that what the way
Yep.
you explained it earlier?
Yep.
Right. The factor, it's dark green right now because the factor override, I go down to factor, is not checked. So if I were to check allow factor override, factor controls the amount. So you have the qualifier override, which gives it to them yes or no. And then if you want to override how much they get, you would have to check this. That would make the column light green, and you could change the actual factor of how much they're getting. So you're basically overriding how much ESP is calculating. Hopefully you don't have to do that too much, but it is available if you want to use it. Any questions? Let's look at cell phone real quick. Cell phone, if I remember correctly, scroll to the top here. Cell phone does use the actuals from Visions. Again, so you type the name in here, and then and this, yours might just say cell with an asterisk. Every district types their pay type in different. But once you type it in, if you know it's right, you can click the binoculars. And since this uses the actuals, this would be a value that I would expect to see after a reload of the employees, because it's going to pull in the actual values that are assigned to the employees for this supplemental pay. So the way this is set up is it's using Infinite Visions loading, and notice there is no qualifier, there is no data schedule, and the factors are 1. So it is 100% only using the values that are being pulled in for each employee. Go to the employees. Okay, I'm done with this pay component here, the longevity. So I can just right click on the higher level, click hide, and it'll get rid of those. Actually, I'm done with all the seniority years and work time. So I'm just going to reset my column layout right here. Take me back to my default columns. And then I want to, between annual rate and total wages, I want to add the cell phone pay component. Model, pay component, cell phone. Longevity. Once you have this window open, you can change the values in here manually. You don't have to close and re-click the binoculars if you want to see other pay types. So here's the cell phone allowance. It's actually pay type 1531. So let's see what the total amount is here. So 84,587. I have 166. So let's just see what we've got here. Only 74,000. So it's possible that I need to reload the employees, copy them into the model, and figure out, why I'm not showing the full amount here. That's part of the new year audit, so to speak, is to make sure that every employee that you saw on that list is being loaded. More than likely, I need to reload the employees and copy them into the model. Speaking of that, let's say that you made some changes and you need to bring in, you made changes in Visions, you've added some people with cell phones, and instead of manually going in and adding them back on the assumptions for that pay component, if you need to reload or you need to bring in cell phone data from Visions, you have this, it's called update model factors on next employee reload. If you check that, it says it's going to copy over, it's going to reload. When you reload your employees, it's going to then take, bless you, whoever that
Excuse
was. It's going to then take the cell phone data, the cell phone values, and copy that into your model, but only the cell phone data. It won't overwrite any of your other data. So this is just telling you pay component model amounts will be copied from IV on the next reload. You must reload the Infinite Vision employees to complete this. So if you were to save, you would need to make sure you reload the employees so that you could get the cell phone data in there. If you don't want to do that, you can cancel. So I would recommend when you do this, go ahead and reload the employees then and make sure that the correct values copy over into your model before you get too far ahead and reload with other supplemental pay, so that you keep it clear in your mind what you expect to happen. So that's pretty important to understand, that if you want to bring your values that you have in visions for a supplemental pay into ESP and into the model, you need to check this box. Now, if you're going to do a reload of employees and then copy all the employees into your model, you wouldn't have to do this individually, because copying your whole data set from your Infinite Visions to your model would also do the same thing, but it would copy everything else too, and all the other supplemental pay that relies on Infinite Visions values. So this is only if you care about just bringing in the cell phone data from Infinite Visions into the model. So these are pretty straightforward. It just pulls in the data from Visions. It doesn't change it in any way. The only way that you would want to change it would be adding an inflation factor, either a dollar amount or a percent. If you expect cell phones prices to increase 3 to 5%, you would just put whatever value in here, and it would pull in the data. And then you can right click. If you go to the Infinite Visions data set, it has the pay component submenu. You could add the cell phone column. That would stay the same with whatever they're getting this year. And then you would expect to see the model values increase by whatever inflation factor you added to the cell phone. The only bad thing about when you have full scope is it just takes a little bit longer to populate the columns. I have 1,900 rows here. So if we were to put a 5% inflation factor on cell phones, this would be 5% higher than the 720. So getting all of these straight and set up for your new year is definitely the way to go. Because the good thing is, once they're set up, you really won't have to worry about them too much moving forward unless there's some big changes. Okay, the TSA, let's see how it's set up. I believe it's the same thing. It is just using the values from Visions. These are always the easiest and best. And it's not using a qualifier or a data schedule anymore. It's just using the values, and it's just being rolled up to 0119. Now coaching, I believe, is the same. Yep, the same way. It's pulling in. Now this is where you have to be careful about using text here, because I've seen some districts where they have something called like a math coach instead of a tutor. And if you intend to just pull in like sports coaches, this could pull in some values that you don't want to pull in. So you can always put the text in here. And the good thing about putting the text in here, if you go to the next line, you have this pay type list. It'll give you a list of all of your pay types filtered on this text. So these are all of the values, all of the pay types that have the word coach in them. So here's one called Title I Instructional Coach. You might not want that involved in this pay component, the supplemental pay. So in that case, I guess you would have to check every box and not check that one. I don't know how. Scott, we don't have a way of saying, give me everything, but don't put instructional in there, do we?
No.
Right. So unfortunately, in this case, I think you would have to select all of these. You can see it's putting the actual pay type value in there, not the whole word. Except for, and you can use the keyboard in these. You can select shift.
Tim, I think you can select all and then just uncheck Title I maybe.
You could use the wildcard coach in there also. Yeah, like you did there. Yeah.
Right, but it pulls
Yeah.
in the it pulls in that instructional coach.
Instructional coach, right?
I think
Right.
the option at the
okay,
very
that's a
top.
good idea, right, Tammy? Select all and then uncheck the one you don't want. Right. And then so you can only use one of these. So once you select it, then you would want to get rid of this. Now, because we did this, we would definitely have to make sure that and notice that when I did that, it automatically checked this update model on next reload, because it knows, hey, you're going to have to go reload your employees to square all of this up, to pull in the right values. So we try to check this when it needs to be checked, but always double check that if you make changes up here, you're probably going to have to reload and copy into your model. So make sure this is checked. Because then all I have to do is go to tools, reload employees, and when the employees reload, they'll reload into the blue columns, but the coaching pay will get copied into the model based on these new pay types. So that person, if there was anybody that was getting that instructional pay, that should zero out. And then you could put an inflation factor on it. So here's a case where I've made a bunch of changes and I don't want to save right now. And I don't want to go back and do all the unchecking. You can always, and this is on any grid, just click refresh. And it's just warning you, hey, you've made all these changes. What do you want to do? And I want to refresh. Just a quick way to get rid of everything. You could go in and manually back out your changes. And that is easy to do if you've made just one simple change. So extra duty, you'll notice on the left over here, there is no result mask that it gets rolled into. That's what all these others are, although for the whole properties here, is these are the results where the finals get rolled up to in the, even for the calculations for the financials, this is where the result gets rolled into. But you'll notice for this particular pay component, there is no result mask, and that is because it is, you scroll to the bottom in the results section, it says it's included in their salary. So this will follow the account code that their main salary is in. Whatever they're assigned to, it will just stay with that. It is a separate column, but it's still, when it rolls over to the financials, it will be included in whatever the account code of the salary is. And for this one, it's using a mask, and it's saying, okay, everybody envisions with 1133 function, bring into ESP, bring the values into ESP. Let's see what that looks like. So you kind of have three ways here of looking up data in visions to bring into ESP, either through the filter, actually selecting the pay types, or using an account mask. And the binoculars are very helpful for this to make sure you're pulling in the right data. I'll give this just a few seconds. Y'all's is probably faster than mine if you use the binoculars. Okay, I'm sure it'll pop up and annoy me here in just a second. Um, and it's not changing anything. It's not changing the factors. It's included in salary and rolling to, not rolling, it's included in the salary. There we go. So if you notice, the account code for all of these employees is function 1133. And there's about 33 employees or 33 fundings that when I reload the employee, I'm pretty sure mine is empty. I didn't have this set up right when I reloaded, but if I would go in, check that checkbox, reload the employees, I would then expect to see those values in the model. Remember, if you don't close these, they can really pile up on you. $11.33. Okay. Then the last one here is, it's the third type. It's a benefit. You'll notice the icon is a little different, just like the icon for the include in salary is different. And you'll see these on the financials. We'll look at those in just a minute. And this is the life and disability. I believe we're just using the actuals. And the pay type for this, though, is include in benefits. And if we switch over to the employees, remember you have your benefits column. These are the values that come from the benefit plans. The plans that we talked about yesterday, these benefit plans here, right? These get assigned to the salary plan. And then from the salary plan, they feed to the employees benefits column here. But you'll notice there's a difference between the benefits and the benefits total. And that would be right click, model, pay component, LTD. I meant to put that in between. Because this is a supplemental pay that is marked as a benefit. No payroll costs are being calculated on these dollars. Scroll to the top. So between benefits and benefits total is this LTD. That's how we end up with benefits total. Any questions? You can always just like find an employee that you know you're using the actuals on, like Linda, right click, infinite vision details, and we should see a benefit for 1473. And there, it might be a combination of a few of these. Life and disability, and maybe this one and this one. Yep. So these life and disability, she has 3 of them, it looks like. You can use the control key to select different fields that aren't next to each other. And you look in the bottom, 1473 and 1473. So confirming that the right ones are being brought in, and even though it looks like they're actually different, we did a search for anything that had the words life and disability in the deduction category. Deduction categories, life and disability. So you'd have to be careful, right? If they get miscoded or even misspelled in infinite visions, you're going to miss out on these. So double checking the infinite visions values are super important, especially when you're using the actuals. Because if the word disability had been misspelled here, it would not have picked it up. That's why one reason why we suggest maybe using these codes, the 596, 1050. You could go over here, and now that I have the text in there, it should show me. Well, I guess it's going. Which ones are it? I don't even know. I don't know. Scott, any suggestions? I thought it would show me the life and disability deduction types. Okay, well, maybe this makes more sense.
What's
to you,
that? Say
Tim.
that again, Tim?
Oh, I was just looking for the life and disability, the pay type, because here, it's life and disability for the pay type deduction.
Right, but that's not supplemental pay. That's employer pay deduction. That's a deduction. Let me go show that to me again. See, if you look at the source type,
Oh, right,
it's a deduction.
right.
So so is that showing you that should be switching up the list?
Well, it is switching it up, but it's showing me, yeah, just the deductions, not the actual supplemental pay types.
There is no supplemental pay type,
Right.
but where is life and disability? Oh, that's a category. That's different than deduction type. There's deduction categories and there's deduction types. And these switch because if you
Oh,
drop
I
that
see.
down,
I see what you're saying now. Okay.
yeah. Yeah, if it's a deduction supplemental pay, it's a totally different set of lists.
Right.
And it comes from a totally different table.
Right. That's right. So hopefully this makes more sense to you guys that actually look in visions and see how these are created. But I forgot, if you change the source type to deductions, it's actually looking at payroll deductions, not supplemental pay anymore, or supplemental pay types. Any questions about these and how to find them? Okay, so just to show you one guy's last thing, then on the financials, you have the icons over here, and these are those different icons. This is the regular supplemental pay icon. These are the same icons that we saw on the assumptions. This is the one that is included in salary. And this is the one, no, where's it at? What was the number? Look, 117. 117. Well, when I recalc, that would be the same icon as the benefit supplemental pay. So having the right click look up in Infinite Visions will really be helpful in tracking down your supplemental, making sure it's calculating right. I know you guys over in Oregon Trail are really going through that right now. Double checking what's in Visions, versus what's being pulled into ESP. And remember to reload the employees. If I had checked some of those update model on next employee reload, you go to your employees, tools, employees, reload employees. And when you're still early in the game like we are, and you might want to just copy, if you select this, that will copy everything. It will reload into blue columns, then copy from the blue over to the green. But if you just want to reload, say, the cell phone data, you don't need that checked. It's already checked for cell phone on the assumption. You would only need to just reload right now. And any of that cell phone data would get copied into the blue, and then from the blue into the model. for just the cell phone, whatever you have checked over there. So it's a way of reloading and just copying partial data for the supplemental pay. All right. Well, so we're to the point where we're just going to ask any general questions for your new year, getting things ready for your new year scenarios. Anybody? Everybody's got it all figured out. Just a reminder, on the 24th, we'll be offering some more detailed training. It's the week of the 24th from 10 to 12 each day. That one is not free like this one is. And then February 22nd and the 24th, not through the 24th, but and the 24th, from 1 to 4, we'll be offering budget book training, because budget book is it's, you know, it requires its own kind of training days, because it can be quite complicated getting it set up correctly. And we do that later in the year because you're really not worried about running reports just yet. Trying to think of something that I talked about this morning that I want to make sure I share with you guys. I don't think so. You guys have our email and phone numbers. Emails always work best because it gives us, for me, it gives me a chance to get the email, investigate it, and then I can get back to you. That's usually almost every time I'll need to, you know, go, I can switch my ESP to your database and I can see, you know, what you're seeing and try to figure out why something's happening, and then I'll get back to you. So emails with screenshots. And remember, when you do a screenshot, please take a screenshot. We use this program called Snagit, and it works really well. If you use the, so when I take a screenshot, I always make sure I get the entire screen, because we need to see things like which version you're in. We can see that up here. We can see which tab you're on. We can make sure you're in the right database. We can see the last time you've recalculated. Just a lot of information that we need to help you guys. So make sure you give the whole screenshot. If you use the Windows, I think it's called Clip It. I forget what it's called, but you just make sure you click and drag the whole window when you take the picture, the screenshot, and just paste it right into the email and send us the email. When you want to start TeamViewer, we added this toolbar icon up here, a little life preserver. When you click that, you really shouldn't have to do anything. You click it and it will automatically contact me and Scott and let us know that you've started TeamViewer. And then we'll give you a call, talk to you on the phone, but then that way we can see your screen. But it's best to maybe call us or send an email first rather than just start TeamViewer, so that we have a chance to, you know, concentrate on what, you know, what your issue is. Any questions or comments? Scott, do you have anything?
Not at this time. Just stay tuned for more information to come on the Responsibility Center managers in the web app.
Yeah, I'll be sending out an email with a schedule for probably next Friday. We'll get everybody together again and talk about the web app responsibility centers. And is everybody's new year good to go? I think Tammy is still working on yours. So yeah, please make sure you go to your financials, make sure your working and adopted are correct in divisions column, and then make sure that the working got copied over into your model. And then once you know that's good, then you don't have to worry about the financials anymore. And then really it's about concentrating on the employees and the supplemental pay. And then of course, all of your assumptions and making any changes in your assumptions. And now you can see why it's so important to do most of these changes or all of the changes in your first scenario, so that all of the future scenarios will already have the changes in them. Won't have to worry about changing anything in future scenarios. Unless you're doing like a what if, what if Social Security changes? Then you might want to create a new scenario and change it just to see what the effect is. All right, well, I guess we'll close up early. If nobody has anything, please email us or give us a call. If nobody has any comments or questions.
This is Kim. My new model looks good now. I checked the column totals and it looks good.
Great.
Oh, that's music to my ears, Kim.
Yep. Next year, we won't have this problem. It's only because we're using budget columns this year for the first time.
Yeah.
So hopefully we've resolved all these issues. And then next year, when you create a new year, it'll be beautiful from the get-go. Unless, of course, Tyler changes something again.
Well, I just saw an email. Tyler's changing the name of Infinite Visions to ERP Pro, School ERP Pro, I think is the name of it. They're rebranding all of their products.
We don't key off of the word Tyler anywhere, I hope.
Nope.
Okay, good. Okay, guys. Well, thank you very much. And email us if you have anything else. Thank you for joining
Thank
this
you.
week. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yep. Bye. Scott, did you see my message about